Recorded.
Go ahead.
No, you can do it.
Yeah. Recorded August 5th, 2024 as I walk up on stage. Good afternoon, Rod. It's been one of those Mondays. Not a bad Monday. Just
it's a Monday.
It's a Monday. Things pushed up on me where I cleared the calendar off, and then I actually put a buffer so that I had 15 minutes. Like stop my last meeting at 4:45 across the board, right? Nobody and people who have power rank and power say, no, you're going to have a 4:30 meeting. This is how it's going to go. So, but anyway, man, how you doing?
I'm always good. Not always great. It's super hot here today, so obviously I went out for my run and it was hot, but I enjoyed it. I love running in the hot weather. I had a couple things as we get started here I thought would be kind of interesting. Let me it is theme month for those that aren't aware, and I bring this up on the screen because the actual theme title is so long I'll never remember it. Ray actually helped come up with this, and I also wanted to point this out for those listeners or who aren't watching. You need to come back and watch this, or if you want to know what our show schedule is, we actually have it on the site now. I don't know if everyone knew that. So if you go to MicrosoftSecurityInsights.com, there's a show schedule, and it's theme month, August 2024. The title is From Passion to Profession, Cyber Journeys of Determination, or Unique Paths to Cybersecurity. I think Ray came up with that, and I really appreciate that title because I would have never. I would have just it's a theme.
She was conveying a thought. I mean, this theme month came from having some of our guests who sort of communicated their not so cookie cutter path into cyber that a lot of people take. And we wanted to highlight for those who wanted to get in, because we always say it's hard to get into this particular profession in information technology, but at the same time you hear that there's a huge shortage of talent in this, and we want to hear some unique stories about individuals who decided to make the change. Because one of her cybersecurity master's program professor started off as finance, right, and ended up being a college professor, dean of the school that he teaches a master program in cyber, and did not start off in that necessarily, admitted to being a technology geek, but chose a different profession. So we wanted to make this a theme month where someone says, hey, I keep trying to get in, I can't get in, or I tried that path, I took a different path, or I started here and now I'm finally in the place I think I belong. So that will be a commonality in the in the guests that we have to talk about, what they do and how did they end up currently in what their profession is, and give us some unique insights when they took to do that. And we just want to hear some stories. How did you do it? Give some ideas to some of those who are still having problems, either career changing and or just I'm in the field. I just can't get into this particular focus. So that's what we'll be doing. Hello.
Well, I think we've had like a few guests over the past couple of years that have had some really interesting beginnings. One that really sticks out in my mind is during Partner Month last year when we had Maria Thompson on from MISA, or maybe she was on Women in Cyber Month in March of last year, and she started life as a dance instructor, and now she heads up our security partner program at Microsoft, which is
and we've had some people that don't have a typical university degrees, something as odd as economics and journalism, stuff like that, and now are subject matter experts and influencers and decision makers in cyber. So we know what you do. We just wanted to know, how did you get here? But we got a little bit of a late start today. We want to make sure we give our guests enough time to talk about their story. But you wanted to show something cool. Go ahead.
I did. This really shocked me today, to be honest. I talked about it in a blog post a couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, about how to set an alert on your Copilot security compute units to be alerted or get a report at the end of each month to see what your costs are going to be. I received my email yesterday from July, and I thought I would show this again for the listeners who aren't watching. You can go back and watch the replay for this if you want to see this, but I'll talk about it. I run, obviously, a small environment for security. Right, I'm not doing daily analyst stuff like many of our listeners are in these security operations centers. But I run a small one just to figure it out, to write about it, to dig in, figure out what the nuances are and things like that for cybersecurity. So it's a small environment. I run a SCU, but I do run the recommended 24/7. So one SCU, I run it 24/7, which normally when you look at the cost or the pricing, it's going to be like what, $4 per hour, whatever for that month. And normally costs are like right around $1,200 for one SCU, right? I don't know how I've done it. I don't have anything to show. I haven't done my work yet, but I plan on doing it to figure it out. But in July, my costs were $310.32 for my one SCU. Again, and I use it every day. I use the crap out of it. And I'm always exceeding the limits and getting the nasty messages saying you probably need to deploy a new SCU before you continue and stuff like that. So $310.32.
Now, to our listeners, we're an investigator. We know what the market, what is advertised as the SCU running at 24/7 cost per month. That's listed on the site. So Rod and I have a little bit of investigative work to do, right? Because I'm getting ready to put it in my lab. And when I say my lab, my personal lab, right? I'm going to pay for this because the Microsoft lab is so convoluted. So many people are in it, right? But the crazy part about it, the Microsoft lab, I looked at it today, Rod, it had 100 SCUs in it. 100.
That makes me jealous.
Yeah, so we'll see. Because they have it doesn't mean I can use it. I don't know what my rights are, right? But in your case, I have a theory of why yours is. So
people just like me.
That might be it. Yeah, Trevor, just two of us today, man. And Prob, thanks for coming on. She said, "Co-pilot, play just the two of us. We can make it if you." Anyway, Bill Withers.
We might have to end on that song.
Yeah, in that song. So I have a theory about that. We'll make sure that we talk about it on the show. But what I'd like to see is your overall spin. And I think it's the way your lab's configured with the amount of content. Now, if I run it in mine, mine's just pretty intensive. Because I literally have 150 people and laptops in the wild. And I'm wondering if the amount of information it has a reason over. That's the reason.
Well, here you go. You've kicked the hornet's nest.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. This is my usage monitoring for the last. It said 24 hours. I actually selected last month, but it still shows that. That's weird. That's a bug.
We'll call one of our episodes when it's just us to call it SCU investigation. Where's the burn?
Yeah. Kind of like CSI on television, and we'll make it super graphic.
Yeah. Super graphic. That, but it's peculiar about it. We got some interesting things in the show notes too about being able to take action against a quarantine email directly from the Defender portal, not having to go into the 365 admin portal to release quarantine or take actions on messages around shady emails.
Turn your speaker down just a little bit, Edward. Edward's working with a new microphone, and I think I'm echoing on his side.
Is that better?
That's it.
Yeah, I got to get that mic farther. Your speakers are farther from mine. I'll put them up there or something on the wall. But I wanted to use this mic and get the headphones off my head. He says, do MVPs have access to the Microsoft Lab or similar, eager to play with Copilot for security?
It's in the works.
There you go. The answer to the question right there. It's in the works. With this huge security first initiative, everybody's getting these emails. These tenants that's sitting out there, just been around, Microsoft is zapping them. I mean, you got inactive tenants, you got tenants that misconfigured, you got things that are trying to connect. You have your Microsoft alias and something, but to go clean it up, I've had two of mine deleted. There is no mercy. It will be gone doing that. So, but hey, I didn't do anything super crazy. I'm back doing some Sentinel stuff. I did listen to um, the webinar today, internal, to talk about the new announcement around auxiliary logs and summary
Oh,
logs.
that was, yeah, that's interesting. It's going to save a lot of money.
It's going to save a lot of money. I'm going to talk about it next podcast.
Okay.
I'll have some slides that I can share externally. So to, I guess, they want to look at it, we'll have something. It is interesting. And I'm going to introduce both of those into my lab, but I want to set up my Fortinet firewall and my Palo Alto first, because there's some very specific way you set it up. It goes back to what I talked to you offline, Ron. Remember that I gave you that scenario and you made that diagram and say, hey, I got an idea. It's like that.
Yeah. I can't talk about that yet. Anyway.
I know. We'll talk about it.
All right.
So let's get our guest on. Hey, Thomas. How you doing, sir?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. Sorry we got a little bit behind. First of the month jitters. It's our first time doing this.
No problem.
And we're 2 people down. People are going to Black Hat and taking vacation. You'll notice that Rod and I never get any time off. We don't get to go anywhere, right? People change to our death. Hey, Thomas, before I forget, I know you and I were exchanging information. Where are you physically located? We want to get an idea of where our listeners are coming from.
Didn't I tell you he's going to ask that question, Thomas? There you go.
You did, yeah. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. So.
Yeah, see, that's why I can't talk to Rod, because Rod can hold water. I saw you that, man. I will be in your home country here this fall. But it's been about 4 or 5 days in Melbourne, so we'll exchange information. I'll look you up. We'll have a beer.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's one more person on the list that I got to go see when I'm between Melbourne, Brisbane, and go to Golden Isles. You said Matt's in Perth, and I forget who I'm seeing in Sydney. And then to all our listeners that live in Australia, that live in New Zealand, I'll be there too. So I'm gonna try to make my rounds to see everybody. I'm coming to down under for about 3 weeks, and man, you're talking about trying to get a visa. Yeah, it wasn't quick, so we'll see. So Thomas, welcome to the Microsoft Insight Security Part Show, Cast, whatever. Thank you for agreeing to come on. We are theme month, and we really wanted to hear your experience and what you are currently doing as far as your profession and how you get there. I think you want to share your experiences with them being a newbie, or I wouldn't say newbie, being early into the profession of cybersecurity. So you can talk about whatever. I just want to hear the story, man. This is about Inspiration Month. This should be called Inspiration Month. There you go. So, you want to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Thomas. I'm currently working as a cybersecurity analyst here in Australia. I've only been in this field really for what is it now? Probably just over 2 years, or coming up 2 years, or something like that. As far as IT combined with security, it's been closer to 3.5 or 3 and a bit, something like that. I don't know where to start with.
So you obviously, I think part of that story is you've been 2 years in cyber. So you've been in IT pro. Did you come from something else, or was that where you started in technology altogether? Was it as an IT pro, or did you do something else before that?
Yeah, so when I initially got into the industry, I started off on the help desk actually at an MSP here in Melbourne. Worked there for I was about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. I think it was a year and 3 or 4 or 5 months, something like that. And then a position opened up on the security team, I knew the people that were on that team. Some friends of mine were on it. They'd moved across from the help desk as well, just put my hand in and got the job. So.
Well, that's awesome because I think a lot of people, they do kind of start in the IT pro area before they jump into cyber. But still, I'm thinking to myself. So number one, help desk, service desk. That's pretty much a thankless job anyway. I mean, you're like always on, right? You always, yeah. Did
Yeah, definitely.
you, during that first period of time when you're on the help desk, is that where you got a lot of your education, your skills, and kind of your learning that sets you up to go into that other role?
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely learned a hell of a lot from working on the help desk, working with everyone at that company. Yeah, learned a lot from them. Prior to that, though, I did did go to university and got a diploma of IT.
Wow.
And in sort of my own time, I've always been into tech and sort of fiddling with things at home and that sort of thing. So
Now, were you, excuse my phone, I'm totally unprepared today. Now, were you, did you rush into or were you thrust into cyber?
um,
The
I
question
don't know if
being,
I.
was it a choice? Do you say, hey, I want to apply, I want to do that? Or they were like, you were sitting closest to the firewall, you're a new cybersecurity guy, come on over here.
No, so it was a choice of my own. So I previously at that company. I'm no longer at that company. I'm at a different one now. But at the time, working on a help desk, I saw some of my friends move across to that, and I'd sort of picked up some interest in security just in my own time. You know, watching some tutorials and then videos on YouTube and that sort of thing. And I was kicking myself later on after my friends had moved across and gotten in the team, and I thought about how it was sort of a missed opportunity for me at the time, and I just thought to myself that next time they've got an opening, I'm going for it. So
A little bit of betting on yourself and a little bit of bravery, considering that you said the first time you sort of didn't do it, but the second time, I'm going. I think you said you kicked yourself for not doing it. No,
yeah,
we all have those reservations because I think a lot of time um, we want to be 100% of that unicorn that the human resources person writes, right? I need you to have 15 years of quantum computing experience, or I need you to have 9 years of Copilot for security experience.
Yeah.
Like, been out 2 years. I don't know what you're saying. Um, I like to have a different perspective because I think one time we talked about what it is to get into a particular arena. We got to realize I have a very United States centric view, right? Information technology is tech, right? We're doing the same thing all over. But were there opportunities more robust and more plentiful in Australia? Because we hear, and it just seems to be an oxymoron in the United States. It's a juxtaposition that doesn't make sense. People are still saying it's hard to break into it, but anybody that were reported saying there are a bazillion jobs in cyber, right? There are not enough people for it, and I'm like, those are two positions that can't be truth on both sides. One of them has it. So I think I've asked this question to someone else that might have been working in New Zealand, but why in Melbourne are there a huge amount of cybersecurity openings if you purse the job sites there?
yeah. I mean, I believe there is. When I was looking, yeah, there definitely was quite a few around. I think some of it comes down to maybe some misconceptions on what they should be looking for the role, as far as the level of experience and that kind of thing. Maybe some might need to be a little bit more willing to take a chance on someone with a little bit less and that sort of thing. But yeah, there's a lot around, I think. Yeah.
And you said you're in cyber. That's like saying, I like cereal. Which cereal do you like? So, which particular focus or aspect of cybersecurity is your expertise in?
So I would say that my expertise is more around the sort of blue team side of things. So currently, as I said, I work as a security analyst in a security operations center, and so yeah, it's more on the blue team side of things, managing alerts, investigating them, that sort of thing.
And you've been doing this full time for about 2 years, you said?
So this particular role, I've been doing since it's at the end of April. So a few months in this particular role. Yep. Prior to that, I worked at the previous company I worked at as more of a security engineer, sort of security sys admin almost.
Yeah.
It's probably the best way to describe it. So,
So here's the other thing I think is important, particularly for our audience, and because it is the theme of this month, of not just where you've been and where you have come to, but how you got there. You talked about going to university. So already that to me sounds like somebody that wants to accomplish something, right? So you got your credential in IT. You went into the help desk, which, to be honest, I started my career out on the help desk, and I know that that's a difficult job, and that's where you learned a lot of your stuff. I get a sense that you're also a hard worker, because
try to be.
a couple things, you have moved very quickly. So what is your cadence? What do you do? How do you stay on top of things? How do you learn? Are you just that great? I saw one of the awards you got was a Ticket Slayer award. I guess that was with the service desk, right? So that to me gives me a sense that this is something that you're really passionate about.
Yeah. So yeah, I think part of that comes down to just I have always been one to try and help other people. Prior to actually being in IT, I'd worked in retail and hospitality. So a lot of my sort of, I guess, communication skills and experience really came from working in that. Yeah, how do I?
Well, I like that particular piece because you're not the first person to say that I worked in the service industry, where you will learn customer service and we will break you, right? Ticket Slayer, remind me of Demon Slayer. Yeah, bro, I like that. I like it. I'm watching it now. It's so 2 years in. I want to make sure some of your bosses may be listening on the show. I'm not sure. They may go back and listen. Is it what you thought it would be? Is the thing that got you the passion to do this still burning? Are you still the Ticket Slayer? Because that's going to be your nickname for the show going forward. The Ticket Slayer from down under. Right? We're gonna make a AI with a red back spider, probably with you on it right across. Right? Do you still feel that same thing that says I want to be in this profession, or has the profession go? As it sort of inundates you, and you go, oh man, I got to get up for work again today. I got to go do this. And you have a little bit of both. So tell me what you feel right now with the choices you made.
At the moment, I'm still loving it. Honestly, it's I haven't really felt any sort of sense of not wanting to get up to go do it. It is something that I do really enjoy, and I really, I just really love this field, especially because it's one that is often changing and changing quite often. So there's always a chance to learn in it. So that's probably one of the biggest things about it that I really enjoy, frankly, and that's really kept me going. So
I'm going to ask this question here because it seems to be something that a lot of people are starting to factor into their job satisfaction. And it used to be something that it was, and then it wasn't, and then it was, and then for the pandemic, all these things. What about the people? How about the people aspect? Do you, is it a conducive environment where do you enjoy I want to get you straight. Do you enjoy the job or do you enjoy the people that you have around? Because it seems to be cybersecurity individuals seem to be very introverted.
Name one person that you would be happy not to be at work when you.
Don't do that. Don't answer that. Yeah. So does that factor into the equation? The people that you work with, and that's a very broad question, because when you ask me that, I could say yes, but I have conditions around it. People that push me, that challenge me, and then those that I can learn from. I like those two very distinct individuals, right? Not necessarily the problems that they try to solve with a smart, but get you outside your envelope and say, hey, you should take a look at this. So what about the job that may not be directly related to the job that keeps you saying, yep, this is a good choice?
I mean, yeah, I love working with the team that I'm currently with, both in this current role and even in previous. I think I'm a little bit like you in that regard, having those people that are there to sort of, that can guide or push you towards, push you towards things, challenge you, that kind of thing is really good to have, and as well as just being able to get along with those people, have really good relationships, rapport with them. That goes a mile, really. So.
Well, and maybe I don't know if you've gone back and talked to these people after you've left these other roles. Maybe you're the glue that holds all of these teams together. Did any of those previous teams just simply fall apart when you left?
No, that's all right. No, I don't think they fell apart when I left from them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That would be a good story, though. Hey, everywhere I left, I just got this trail of destruction. I was the glue that held them together. Anybody, and at that point, if you put that on your resume, anybody would hire you. Oh my goodness, I want my team to do
that. I definitely want to do that. So, as you being new into this, Rod asked this question. I'm sorry, I cut you off before you had time to answer.
That's right.
How do you stay current? Because the job doesn't necessarily lend itself to making you better. The job is for you to do the job, right?
Yep.
So how do you go about staying relevant, good, and choosing what you want to do? Because once you're in cyber, you don't have to stay in that thing. There are some things in the cybersecurity definition that I don't think I would be good at or have a huge amount of interest because of the way my brain works. One of them being compliance, right? I'm not a big framework, check the box audit guy. I'm like, make it work. We'll make the documentation fit later. So how do you stay and stay current? Or you may be at one of those places that's lovely that says, oh yeah, you got to dedicate it, 15 hours a week out of your workday to study. So tell me how you stay current. What do you do?
So it's really a combination of things. I'm very blessed to have an employer that does offer me opportunities, so that's going really well so far. And outside of that, it's honestly just like a lot of things in my own time. So that's whether that's looking at news or looking at stuff through like LinkedIn. There's a few different pages through that I follow that often post some things. Of course, I mentioned YouTube earlier is a big one, and podcasts as well. So like this lovely podcast here, or the Microsoft Threat Intel podcast as well is great to listen to. So yeah, that's sort of really where I try to keep up to date on things.
So here's another thing, and I don't think we talk about this too often. I only talk about it now because I've been in this industry for a long time, and I just discovered this. I don't know, just call me stupid. But I have a creative side to me, and I have to find ways to have downtime, right? Earlier on in my career, being a young person, it was easy for me, being high energy, just to work all the time. And what I found over a period of time, as I do that, my level of work degrades in a certain way, or I get kind of bored, or I get tired of that thing, and I have to kind of move on. But what I found over even just the last year is if I have something else where I can designate that's my downtime thing, for example, writing other books or doing creative things, it actually makes my actual work much better, makes my professional life much better. So is there something that you do for downtime? It could be playing games, being a gamer. It could be anything. Is there something that you absolutely are also passionate about that powers your energy for your professional life?
Yeah, I mean, gaming is definitely a big one there. Ever since I've been a kid, that's probably what drew me to tech, really.
Oh, really?
In the first place, yeah. So I think a lot of people, I grew up playing maybe a little bit too much. But yeah, no, gaming is a big thing. Trying to spend time with family and friends is also very important in keeping that work-life balance to make sure you don't burn out. They're probably the biggest things at the moment, really. So
Yeah, and family's super important. So I truly
Yeah,
appreciate that.
always that. And I think that we don't necessarily always consider families into this, but you know, security can eat up a lot of hours, especially if you operational centered, right? You know,
yeah,
the hours that you list are suggested by your employer. You know, they often will say work longer, but they won't say, "Oh, you got your work done. You can go ahead and cut out early." Right? This is not the nature of the beast for a lot of people. And so, you know, I like talking to individuals who are new to the profession because it still seems to me you haven't said it, but I can hear in the way your answers are framed. You're still finding your way. You're still trying to figure out what you want to do when you grow up, right? And this
Oh,
is
I am
this,
too. I am too. So there you go.
and this is one of those things that you go through, and you don't know what you don't know. And you're also influenced by the senior individuals around you, both your leadership and your coworkers, right? Because sometimes you do as they do. You know, I got pulled into a lot of things, which is the reason I asked: Did you rush toward this, or were you thrust toward it? There were oftentimes in my career I was thrust into it because they said, "Hey, we need someone to do this." It made it sound like a question. Ed, will you help us out? Will you do this? Basically said, you're in charge now. You need to go figure this out. And yeah, you got a week to become a subject matter expert and go get at it. Right. So are you finding yourself being able to do what Roz said to not only learn at a pace that allows you to develop expertise, maintain it, but still enjoy it? How do you pace yourself? Because burnout is real. You know, burnout used to
100%.
take 30 years. Now it's 20. Now it's 10. And now it's 5 based on what you're doing. And people are saying, and this is, I'm starting to hear this a little bit more too. Not as much where it's going to make the news. So we're going to talk about burnout. But I'm starting to hear people leaving cybersecurity. Really.
Yeah.
And choose to stay in IT and go do something else, especially with the super emergence of AI, about to be the super emergence of super cold computing. You can call it quantum or whatever else, or not room temperature quantum computing. And people say, hey, I'm going to jump on that. And data analysis seems to be the bigger thing. So 2 things. How do you resist burnout? Should be that. And, you know, how are you determining what you want to do next? I think those are 2 questions I really want to get to.
Okay. As far as what to do next, I'll start with that one. But yeah, I mean, you're spot on. Like it is something that I'm still trying to figure out exactly where in the scope of cybersecurity. Because that, I mean, yeah, it's very wide, large industry to be a part of, and it's still, yeah, definitely something that I'm still trying to figure out exactly sort of where my, I guess, niche could be. Have some ideas, but yeah, still working on that. Still trying to learn. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Just yeah, there's a lot to learn, and that definitely goes towards trying to figure that out. As far as I think it was keeping burnout, not getting burnt out. I think the biggest thing is just not setting a schedule, so to speak, as far as like necessarily, at least it hasn't been for me, for as far as like study or reading up on things. I think a big part of that is just being able to separate that time between work, study, and personal, whether that's gaming or friends or family, whatever. Really just being able to put the mouse and keyboard down and step away and not let work and study necessarily bleed into those other aspects.
You know, one of the things that I've found, just to interject really quickly, and you showcased this as well, I believe. One of our audience members earlier as Parav said, I recognize you from LinkedIn, all right, and how you participate there. One of the things I've noticed um, with people, particularly this theme month, and people we've had on the show that in similar circumstances, how they've kind of gone into cybersecurity, the ones that are most successful are the ones that don't hoard information. So you're learning
Mhm.
all this stuff, but
Mhm.
you are on LinkedIn sharing this with others. You're making sure everybody else knows about this and helping to amplify and make them better. I think that's one of the important factors of success for anyone that wants to work in this industry. It's that sharing, because you think about threat intelligence and identifying threats within an environment. You keep that to yourself. The cyber world is global, right?
Yep.
And without that sharing of knowledge, we don't have threat intelligence, which I think is so super important. But what do you do? What's your, from a sharing perspective? You mentioned LinkedIn. Is that where you kind of put your focus, or do you participate in other places to share that information?
Um, I mean, most of the time on LinkedIn, it's reacting to posts or maybe reposting some things. But
Yeah.
I think most of the time my sort of sharing of info is usually with friends and people that I work with, really. So whether that's like news articles or maybe an interesting um, uh, podcast episode or something on certain topics. Yeah, really, I think because I'm usually pretty camera shy, honestly. So I don't think getting onto posting tutorials myself would be something I'd get into. But just working with my colleagues and really sort of trying to help each other learn and that sort of thing's probably my bigger area
Yeah.
there.
Well,
I'd say.
I think you'll find, and again, you're kind of trying to figure out your way here. I think you'll find as you continue this maturity, you continue to mature in this role and get this experience. I think I'm positive almost that people around you, those your friends and colleagues, will probably start asking you to do things like that, maybe blogs and things like that. I can just I have a sense.
I mean, blogging is something I've thought about, but yeah, I think it's just come back to that sense of um, imposter syndrome, so to speak.
Right.
Whether it's something that I can really talk about or have the experience or whatever with, and I think a lot of people probably experience that as well. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, really. So.
Just
Do
putting
you
yourself out there, I guess, is it's difficult sometimes, right? Yeah.
do you find yourself as, I wouldn't say a novice or a neophyte in this industry? Have you started to find yourself becoming a mentor of a sort? Because no matter how junior you are, there's someone junior to you, right? No matter how senior you are, there's someone more senior to you, right? Whether in time and or knowledge, or a combination of both. Have you found yourself? And I do believe that there is a mark of success that comes when people will trust you enough to either follow you. So indirect mentorship is, hey, I'm going to give this out. I'm sure people reach out to you for you know more detail, more advice. They do it to us on Discord and all of our stuff. Are you finding yourself becoming that more attached mentor, even at this early age in your career? And mentorship doesn't necessarily correlate with age. You could definitely mentor career changers who may have been in, who have professional careers of 30, 40 years and say, hey, I'm new to this. Can you help me? Are you seeing that now inside of this?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had some cases where, yeah, it's something that have a little bit more experience or a bit more versed with, and people, yeah, definitely people have come to me to talk about it or to get maybe my thoughts or something on it. Not too often, but I have noticed a few times. So yeah, and it's always humbling to do that because I never think that they would come to me to ask me, but sometimes they have. So
So let's ask a little bit about your day to day. We know what you do. You told us what you do. You're sort of an analyst. So let's talk about some of the world happenings, how they affected you and your job. We all know about 2 weeks ago that there was a global outage affecting a major security vendor and a major OS vendor. Did that impact you and how you went about your business for those those 7 days when the world, what was the sci-fi Morrison Wells, the day the world stood still? Essentially, that's what happened. How did that affect you?
I was pretty lucky. I myself directly didn't really have too much trouble with it. Some initial troubles on my shift that day, but that sort of blew over not too long after starting, which was really good. But yeah, I didn't have too much with that directly. So I was pretty lucky in that regard, honestly.
Yeah.
I saw today that unnamed security vendor is wanting to blame the client at this point. So I thought every day there's like a new story. I'm going to blame the client for
Yep.
Oh, I think the strong word, we don't want to make this about that. Eventually, we'll talk about that without having to side. We'll just state the facts and then and think like leadership about this right here, because the opportunity is bigger than what happened. If you someone else at another company, you got to learn on somebody else's dime right now. Now, whether you take advantage of that, it's up to you. Because there is I need to find a softer word than fault, but I'll use fault for right now. There's fault on both sides, right? There's fault for, we'll talk about it on a different show. But I just wanted to know how that affected you in your current position. Is your team a small team or a big team? That's another thing we need to start asking people where they work. That makes a big difference. Some people thrive in a smaller environment, very niche, very personal, high scale, small, and some people like, hey, I want to work for the biggest company I can because I want to have big ideas. So, how's your team? Small?
Yeah, I mean, my team feels pretty small, but there are quite a few people. So, yeah.
You say it seems small, but it's quite a few people.
Yeah, just the way that it's structured. So, yeah, it's overall it is. There are, I can't remember how many people off the top of my head exactly, but yeah, as far as like the people I mainly work with directly, it's only a handful of people, but overall, yeah, it's a little bit larger.
So with that, you only have one head that I can see on here. Are you finding yourself in cyber, you don't have to wear as many hats, or you have to wear more hats?
In my current role, I would say that I don't have to wear too many hats, which is good. So, yeah, it's good to. I've really enjoyed it so far, and the current position, and yeah, it's more focused on this work. So yeah.
And excuse me for not knowing, because I don't know if your LinkedIn profile just distinctly identifies who you work for. Are you a consumer of technology? Or are you a provider of technology at the current company you're in?
We're one of the biggest providers actually. So
yeah, it's on his LinkedIn profile.
Because
yeah.
it's one of those Australian companies. I can't tell because some of the huger companies.
We'll include his profile link in the show notes. Anybody wants to know who he works for? Go take a look.
Come down there.
Speaking of, there's I checked on LinkedIn. There's in Australia and New Zealand. There's still over 1,600 active or open cybersecurity jobs.
1,600, 16,000.
1,600.
1,600. Yeah. It's a fairly large country, so 1,600 still seems that would be a minute number. Sometimes I keep forgetting how massive Australia is. You can call it how it's that. So right now, what advice would you give someone in two different scenarios? Someone who had about 3 to 5 years, somewhere, I think that's how long you were on the help desk, who say, hey, I want to make a change. And someone that maybe be a security, maybe a IT professional that says, I want to make a change, because the advice that you give one is not necessarily the advice that would be applicable for the other. Let's start with the junior person. If you give one piece of advice to say, hey, if you're looking to make a change and this is what you're trying to do, here's the two things that I would suggest that you do that would flatten out that journey a little bit.
Okay. I think a big thing there would actually be networking. Whether that's networking within the industry itself, whether it's through LinkedIn or a meetup site or something, or even just within your company. Like in my position, when I had the opportunity to move to the security team, and I knew, I was friendly with a lot of the team that was already in the team in there, and that I think that was a big part of me getting into that role, honestly.
Okay.
As for a second thing, probably just honestly working in your spare time to develop your skills in that whatever role you're looking at, whether that's setting up some VMs at home, or reading up on different tools, or even, like I said, setting them up at home as well. That's probably the two
Yeah.
main things.
I think one of the things that I use to resist burnout is I do a lot of things in raw. I like to think that I have a creative piece of me that when that has an opportunity to manifest, it helps lighten down the day to day things of being that. But I also find peace in doing technology that would be junior to me, things I did in the past. I still find satisfaction going downstairs and mucking around with firewalls and routers and still doing servers, because it sort of grounds me to say these were the fundamental skills that are still relevant, no matter how much flash there is out there. AI is still running on servers. It's not running on neural networks made of organic biological jellies floating on something. It could be all fancy as you want. It's still running on servers. The only thing that's changed in the last 30 years is compute density, right? And efficiency. Right. Nobody still solved the heat problem yet. Right. We've done that. So I like still relaxing about getting away from technology altogether and doing technology to make me like the job that I do. So when someone asked me to help out with something, hey, I'm trying to do this I had to help somebody recover a domain controller the other day. It sort of brought back nostalgia, like, oh, I've done this in a while. Let me exercise that muscle again. And I still had to go bing something because I forgot how to do a PowerShell command to be able to bring something up. So be able to do it. So, while you're in Australia and you're working there, and that has a huge interest to me. Maybe I'll do one of those Anthony Bourdain shows, like when you go around the world eating. We'll do the podcast and go to different countries and say, how does it feel to work here? And I'm going to ask that question again, you there, because if I get there and I actually can't come, I'm going to come by your place of work and like, hey, I know Matt. I know Thomas Marsh. He told me to come over. He's going to give me a tour, and I'm going to stop by everybody's place, right?
I think I would go country to country and just, I'd want to reboot a server in every country.
There you go. I want to reboot a server in every country. I want to go to the server
you have
and unplug a wire in every country and see what happens and get out of there, right? And that's of interest to me because you saw a big trend that everybody wanted to move to the States and work here, but now your skills and talent, broadband connection is all you need. Broadband connection is enough skill can make you a superpower, a cyber superpower in this world, right? Ones and zeros. Let's ask about it a little bit. We've heard the good. Give me, in the time that we have left, give me one thing that you would do different because you say, that was not a good career choice. And that was dumb to do that, right? It has to be a little bit of struggle because people will say your story is not valid if it's perfect.
That's how you learn. That's how you learn. Yeah.
Yeah. So give me one of those things you just like, oh, I'm gonna bite the head off this koala. One of those stories.
Yeah, I mean, probably as far as something that's sort of a regret in a sense, or maybe I do differently. I did mention that I have a diploma in IT, but I actually initially started out trying to get a bachelor, which is like a tier higher. And I honestly found that to be a little bit more, maybe it's just because I was younger then when I went for it. But found that to be a bit more theoretical and maybe not quite the way that I would learn things best. Compared to the diploma, which was a bit more sort of hands-on and practical. So I probably wouldn't have gone straight into the bachelor, or even maybe not necessarily gone for it at all, at least for me. I would have preferred to go just straight to possibly the diploma and then try and work on certifications, more practical certifications. I think that's more, I think that's easier for me to learn it rather than some of the more theoretical. Maybe that was just like being younger or whatnot, but I think that's probably the biggest thing, really.
Yeah. I could date me and Rod. The hands-on was the way. There wasn't a whole lot of theoretical. Theoretical was the people that invented the technology. They were in Bell Labs. They were at Xerox. They were in these places. You put your hand on those compact boxes. You put your hand on those Wayne boxes. You did these things, right? And I think that there was a sweet spot where the tech was affordable, that everybody had a lab. And then it sort of went away with the cloud. And then now you're starting to see people really try. You can test almost anything these days, except for the higher end emerging technology. You're not going to go build a GPU, farm to be able to test the upper limits of that. But I think everybody has an opportunity to do what you said, and I've been a fan of this. There's been a definite time that I learn more when I'm not at work. I don't feel the pressure of performing. I feel the pressure of, if I figure it out, I figure it out. And if I want to stop, I stop and do those things. So, that is a sound career. But it sounds as though your story is consistent with those who are trying to make that thing. And you said the thing that's super important, that they don't teach you at any university course. They don't teach you on any certification, and they don't teach you that just about any technical. You said networking and not the router type, not BGP or SPF. You talk about getting to know other people. And
not that that's not important, but definitely getting to know people in the community and that sort of thing.
That is super important, because there was a time where the thing that was touted of how to get a job or not get a job was you don't have the soft skills. So I have hard skills. Which one is it, right? And be able to do it. I love.
And then we started having soft skills sessions at conferences, and I'm like,
yes, soft skills would just be, hi, my name is Edward, and I work for so and so. Who are you? Oh yeah, okay. It that resonates, but I think these things have been the absolute degradation and the demise of soft skills. Right, so much context is lost by doing this. I could ask a very benign request. They will absolutely come across as rude, because we believe that 100 and 240 characters are soft skills. I would definitely walk up to you, shake your hand, offer to buy you a pint, and talk to someone before I want to sit here and get on this thing. Now, Rod is a gizmo. He probably has something plugged in the back of his neck right now, and he's got me spending money I don't have on more tech that's going to get me in trouble there. I think this is a good start off to our theme month of understanding that everything doesn't have to be a super dramatic, bust out the scenes. I was stuck in this dead end factory job and I did this and that. You just had a plan, whether you disclosed it to anybody and you followed through. And I'll take from this, you got to talk to people and you got to let people know your desires. I can't help you if it's in your head. You got to be able to talk to people and give people a sense that you think you understand where you want to go. Yeah. Before we end the show, sir, is there anything else you'd like to? Because I know I should know the time where you are. It's tomorrow for you.
14 in the future. So
I'm talking to you from the past. See, time travel. Rod, I told you, time is not real. It is a construct of humans to explain natural phenomena. I'm talking to this gentleman from the past.
I'm actually asleep right now.
Me too. I'm not really here. We pre-recorded this to ask the questions. We playing with some AI. We playing a trick on Thomas. Yeah, we're getting stuck. Any last thing before we let you go, sir, so you can get back to the business of securing Australia from all the bad guys?
Nothing in particular, honestly. I just wanted to thank you guys for having me on the show. This has been great. I really enjoyed it. So
it seems like you're part of a big contingent that we're starting to get more and more of a meet from down under. And like I said, for those listening to the show, I will be on that side of the world in November, and I'm gonna do my darndest to.
That's a warning. That's a warning.
That's a warning. I'm coming. Yeah. It's time for you to take some holiday and get out of there before I get there. Do it. All right. Well, everyone, this is the kickoff to our theme month, going from passion to profession. We want to talk about those who made the choice. And we're going to have some stories where people were forced to make a choice. They were either laid off, discontinued, made irrelevant, decided that they had met the pinnacle of what they were currently doing, or they just had that career lust. I love that. Time ain't real, money ain't real. Time is not real and money is not real. Time is a construct and money is a promise that you'll pay your debt. That's it. Yep. I'd rather take a chicken. That's it. Nobody can do with a chicken. So everyone, thanks for bearing with me with my new microphone. I'm trying to not lean into it by habit instead of having it on, but it seems to be working. Thank you, Thomas, for coming on and talking about your career and kicking off our theme month. Thank you to our listeners. We're back next week where we're going to have another guest to talk about, hey, this is where I am and this is how I got where I am. So this is
Angela Brown. Angela Brown is on.
She will be on. And we'll see you same time next week, everyone. There you go.